Hey guys, it's Arcade and I'm back with another tutorial. Today I'm gonna show you how to make progressive electro house, and I'm gonna demonstrate on a song by Axwell Ll Ingrosso, Sun Is Shinning, which I made a remake of, which is here. And let's first hear the preview, and then I'm gonna talk about all the sounds I used and how I layered them and what effects I used and whatnot. So yeah, here's the preview. So as you can hear, it sounds pretty close to the original. It's not exactly the same, but it's gonna be just fine for the tutorial. And also I'm having some CPU issues because I use so many sounds, and using the recording software and everything just makes it a bit difficult for my computer to handle. But it should be fine. Okay, so let's get started. First I'm gonna show you the kick. There's not much to say about the kick. It's a kick, a simple one, from Vengeance Sound sample packs. And what I did actually is put EQ on it and boosted the high frequencies. So every time you feel like your kick doesn't have this snap to it, you can boost the high frequencies. Or if you feel like it has too much of that, you can lower them. Just imagine what the kick should sound like, and then change the EQ based on that. That's what I do, and it's been working just fine. So that's the kick. Then we have this ride or white noise using 3 times oscillator. It's pretty simple. You're just gonna choose 3 white noise oscillators, then go to instruments and enable the envelope, and just lower everything except decay. And you're gonna manipulate the decay. That's gonna determine how long or short the ride is actually. So yeah, that's how we created this sound. It's very simple. You can do it in FL Studio. Everyone should have 3 times oscillator. And this is how it sounds together. So this white noise just adds a bit more life to the whole song. So without it, it sounds like this. Let me just disable one sound so we don't have this, cracking. So yeah, it just adds a bit more to the high frequencies in the song. And now for the more important stuff, we have the actual sounds. I use the synths and whatnot, the leads. And we could separate them to 2 different groups. One is the background sounds, which is this. And then the leads. So yeah, that's 2 different groups, and basically each pattern involves more sounds, but it could also just be one sound when it's played together. So that's basically what the layering is. So we have this lead, basically one sound, but this one sound consists of 5 different sounds. So let's first start with the background sounds. For this one we have the sub bass, which is a must have in every song. Basically the low frequencies. I'm using Nexus, but you can just use any sub bass you want. Just make sure to have these low frequencies in the song. So yeah, any bass will do, any bass with low frequencies. So that's for our low frequencies. Then we have this sound, which is a hyper saw. using Serum. And before we get to that, let me show you the effects on the sub bass. Not much, just the LFO tool, which is basically sidechaining. You can use gross beats and it's gonna work just as fine as LFO tool. And also I boosted some high frequencies, which are really not important. I can't even hear the difference. Not sure why I did that, but yeah, I just felt like it, so I did it. Anyway, sub bass, just low frequencies. And then we have this hypersaw. Also a pretty basic sound. All the sounds are pretty basic, but together they sound like something more complex. And the hypersaw, I'm using Serum. Then again, you can use any plugin. All the plugins can do more or less the same sounds. And if you don't know how to make sound like this, it should be just a simple saw and a little bit detuned, and that should make the sound. Or just search it on YouTube. I'm sure there's a lot of tutorials for hypersaw. Or if you have Serum, you can use the presets. It's in Leads hypersaw. So yeah, here it is. For the effects, I again use the LFO tool, which is sidechaining. Then I deleted the low frequencies, even though it didn't have any low frequencies, but you always want to make sure and just delete the sub bass or whatever, so it doesn't collide with the actual sub bass. And then I also lowered a little bit of the mid frequencies here and the high frequencies. I don't know why I use separate parametric EQs for that, but I just kind of do that because sometimes when you move something in here, everything kind of changes, and I don't really like that. So I usually just create insert a new parametric EQ. So that's for the hypersaw. Actually, the hypersaw is playing the chords, whereas the bass is just playing one note at a time. And yeah, then we got this fuzz bass. These sounds are actually inspired by KSHMR, who did a great tutorial, not really a tutorial, but more an overview of his song, where he showed all the sounds and effects he used for his song. You can check it out on Facebook, I guess, or on YouTube. Then there's this fuzz bass, which basically just adds kind of a sharp sound to the whole thing. So the bass is kind of smooth. This saw is more sharp, but it's in the mid frequencies and whatnot. But this fuzz bass is just a really sharp, dirty sound. And the effects on this one definitely delete the low frequencies because it had a lot of them. It would just collide with the actual sub bass and it would be terrible. So I just deleted the low frequencies, added some high frequencies, that's it. And also used the sidechaining. So together they sound like this. So you can hear the fuzz bass adding some kind of fullness to the whole thing, and just kind of glues everything together. So it doesn't sound like, when you solo the sound, you can hear it like this, but in the actual mix, you just don't really hear the actual sound, you just hear the whole thing. Whole thing just going together. So that's what's important in layering. All the sounds should just fit together, and it's gonna create a one bigger sound that is just really good. So yeah, that's for the background sounds. So then again, you have to have sub bass, some kind of saw detuned so, hyper so, that's playing the chords, and then this fast bass. And also make sure to not put the sub bass in like G6, but make sure to choose the lower notes and maybe experiment with that. If you don't feel like it's good enough, maybe try to moving it. And then also the other sounds. This one is G5 to G6. So just make sure to have this kind of variety when using this. So you can see the ghost notes. It goes from G6 to G5, G4, and ends on G3, which is the fast bass. So make sure to have this variety of, you know, different keys. Yeah, so that's the background sounds. Sounds pretty good together. So what's always important is to choose the right sounds and combine them with the right sounds, and you're gonna get something really nice. And then we have the leads, which are here. So I'm using Nexus for these two. Let's start with the first one actually. So first we wanna the classic lead, you know, which just goes continuously, and this one as well. It's just a classic lead that you can find everywhere, kind of like the high frequencies mainly. And for the effects for these two leads, I just deleted the low frequencies again, even though they are not there really, you can't hear them, but it's always good to just make sure and get rid of them. I boosted the high frequencies. Then again, I didn't use sine chaining for the leads. I wanted to, but then I decided not to. It sounds better when without it. Then I use reverb, which is really important. It adds more life to the whole sound. Without it, it sounds kind of dry, like nothing interesting. But with it, I'm not sure if you can hear it well on YouTube, but it's pretty good difference. But also there's some reverb in the actual sound, so you know, you can't hear the difference as much because there's already some reverb. But reverb is always important, especially in stuff like leads. If you just put it without reverb, it's gonna be like kind of weird, completely dry, and yeah. Then we have this sound. I used Spire for this one. It's kind of like a square lead, and it's really not really loud. So this one is the least important, I would say. Then again, I deleted the low frequencies. You can actually hear some kind of sub bass in there, and that's always bad for the mix. So always delete these low frequencies from leads and sounds that just don't need the low frequencies. Then we have this kind of like a plaque. Also using Spire, and this plaque creates kind of a click in the beginning of the each note. So, and also this plaque, which is the sample, and I put some EQ on it, also deleting the low frequencies, and put reverb on it, just making sure it has this more room with the reverb. So the plaques basically create this click sound on the beginning of each note. Without them, it would just sound like this. But with them, you have this power in the beginning of each note, which is kind of nice in the whole mix. And you can hear this one is kind of lower in the frequencies, and this one is pretty So again, layering the sounds, that's really important. I would say one of the most important things when creating a sound. So some people just create their own presets and whatnot, but the best way to go is layer the presets and create one huge sound. Because individually, all the sounds just kind of sound like nothing special, but together it's something more unique. So which sounds you should use for the lead? So the continuous lead, the classic lead, something like a square lead, and then the pluck sounds. These are not really leads, but more like pluck sounds, I would say. So yeah, and always make sure to delete the low frequencies. And if you feel like it, you can add some more high frequencies and whatnot. So for this lead, actually, these two, as I said, I deleted the low frequencies, added high frequencies, but then added reverb, and I lowered a lot of mid frequencies and whatnot. You know, I don't really look at the numbers, but I just hear like this lead without this edit would be just so harsh and loud in the mix. It wasn't really good. So most of the people would feel like, well, that was better. Before it was better, it was louder, you know, more powerful. And it is, but that's not what you want. You just want really subtle sounds, but more of them, and together they create one more powerful sound. So it's always better to lower the EQ than to boost it. So that's many times people make mistake in this. They think the louder it is, the better it is, but you really want to just go for subtle changes, and together it just sounds way better. And I also boosted a little bit of the high frequencies, but just a tiny bit. And again, I used more EQs, which is weird habit of mine, but yeah. So together it sounds like this, actually. And the bass, the background sounds. So yeah, basically we could separate them to two different groups, the lead and the background sounds, but in reality it consists of way more sounds than it looks. So it's a bit laggy again, but yeah. So that's the end of the tutorial. Not really completely a tutorial, but I hope you learned something about layering, about which sounds you should use in your song, and with which sounds you should combine them, and things like that. Really important. People like to overlook that. So yeah, hopefully you learn something new. I might make this FLP file available, so if it is, it's in the description. And yeah, thank you for watching, and goodbye.